Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. As we see, numbers going up, our participants are joining and getting settled. We will be starting in just a second, but as we wait, and before we get started with our program for today, this in the chat. We've shared this in the reminder email that you all received for registered participants. This is a quick tool for all of you in guiding your learning today, as well as for those of you who are joining the longer course that WeNaTour offers. And if you haven't already done so, we encourage you to download it and have it ready as you learn today from our webinar. This would be a really handy way to follow the lessons and also to take down what you learn from the lessons that we have today. I will share this for those of you who are just joining. Again, the template that we've shared with you in the pre-webinar email. If you haven't downloaded it, you can do so from the link, and we'll be starting with our presentation shortly. So welcome again, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. This is part one of the webinar series that's being offered by the WeNaTour project. And we will introduce you shortly to the project as we get started with our program today. But today, our focus, as you can see, in this part of our webinar is going to be on destination management. We're looking at effective approaches to sustainable management of tourism destination, and we will look at different elements of sustainability in destinations, looking at organizations that manage tourism for destinations, as well as important roles and responsibility that such organizations, destination management organizations, or DMOs, will play. Here is the agenda and the team that's part of our program today. We're going to start with a quick introduction to WeNaTour, our project that's behind this webinar, as well as the session, the context of this session through our project. In the first part of our presentation, our lessons today, Alessia, as you can see from Etifor, is going to share our first part of the lessons around DMOs, destination management organizations, and important roles that they play in sustainable tourism. The second presentation that we have is going to be from Riccardo, also from the Etifor team, who's going to share with you specific and practical insights into stakeholder engagement, which is one of the key pillars of responsibilities that destination management organizations have. And following that, Alessia is going to have another insightful presentation, thinking about what are the future roles of DMOs. What can we expect? What are some of the things that we're seeing that the DMOs need to be aware of moving forward? And to bring this all together in a more practical way, we will also have a destination case study, as you can see from Michele, who represents Valsugana, Ghana from Italy, which is a certified destination that has actively been working on implementing a lot of the good practices that we're going to hear about and learn about today. So our program officially is going to be, until that point, the destination example. Optionally, afterwards, we will have a little bit of time for those of you who are taking the WeNaTour course, as well as anyone who would like to stay on and have a discussion with us, to stay for an extended follow-up Q&A, where you will have, if you have any questions about our program and so on, we'll be able to cover those. So that's our program. To start with, I would like to introduce you to WeNaTour. But before we do so, because I forgot to do it at the start of the session, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ayako Ezaki. I represent TrainingAid, and TrainingAid has been working together with University of Padua and the partners of WeNaTour projects to develop and deliver the e-learning opportunities through WeNaTour. And as you can see, WeNaTour is a multi-year project bringing together partners from across Europe focused on sustainable tourism and with a strong emphasis on destination management, building skills for future destination managers. For that, knowledge sharing and skill building, a key part of it. And we are working, therefore, on our online learning and training program to help students as well as professionals working in this area to gain these skills that are necessary for the future of sustainable tourism, which includes also, as you can see in some of the areas that WeNaTour also focuses on, nature positive tourism, welfare, health and well-being through tourism, and these new and emerging markets that the future destination management organization will benefit from highlighting. As mentioned, partners from across Europe, both industry, academic organizations, as you can see, and WeNaTour, for those of you who may not have seen our website and some of the reports and results already available on the website, have also provided and published these case studies of destinations which can be accessed on the website, as you can see the link here. And as we've already introduced, one of these we'll get to learn about in more detail today. And because this is a project that engages the industry, and we encourage industry professionals, our colleagues in tourism, to join our work and also be part of the Alliance. And that is one of the opportunities that we offer also through WeNaTour to become a member of the Alliance. And before we get started with our program, just a reminder and really a message to encourage you to be part of our programs. You have an opportunity to be part of our online course. You can see the link to start learning. This is open and free for anyone who is interested in learning more. And on the right-hand side, you can also see the link to join, as mentioned, to become a member of the WeNaTour Alliance. I'll leave it for a little bit here, so you can, if you're interested, take down the link, go to the page, or take a picture or to follow the QR codes to go to those pages. And as mentioned at the start of the session, I'll put the link in the chat for everyone, for those who might be interested. This is because this webinar is being offered as part of the larger online course. For those of you who may have already been enrolled in the course and taking the WeNaTour e-learning program, this is the webinar is going to be a starting part of this module that you will go deeper into following the webinar. And to help you go through this to guide in this learning process, this is what we've designed for you to use to guide your learning and take down some of the things that you learn. And this is going to be also available for all of the upcoming webinars that we're going to have. So at this point, I would like to hand over the screen to Alessia, who's going to start with the first part of the presentation covering destination management.
Thank you, Ayako. Okay, so while I share my screen, I would like to say that I see some familiar names among the participants, so I'm very happy about that. Welcome all. So I see you, Ayako. Just give me a thumbs up if you see my screen is still charging. Still charging. Okay, can you see it? No. Yes. No?
It's still loading for me. Yes.
Okay, great. So my topic today is destination management, to give you an overview of destination management. So we will talk about roles, function, and the most exciting part, in my opinion, future directions. So I'm a sustainable tourism consultant at Etifor, at Etifor's tourism program. Tourism is just one of the several programs at UNITS and at Etifor. We are a company dedicated to environmental consultancy, and we are a spin-off of the University of Padua. So we are very much focused on putting nature at the center of our work and having sustainable approaches guiding us on everything we do. So keep in mind that this is the frame shaping our approach to tourism as well. So we see tourism as a local development tool, so not just as an end in itself. But I will stop here because we will see that later on. So my background is in foreign languages and tourism studies. I work with many different destinations, which is at the same time challenging, exhausting, but also very rewarding and enriching. And I have been experimenting with the regenerative tourism approaches in the past couple of years. And in the picture, you see what I like to do best. So multi-day hiking. Okay. So these are some of the projects and destinations we are working with or we have worked in the past. So basically, what does tourism program at Etifor do? We work with them, we help destinations organize themselves. So we guide them towards solid governance and management structures and plans. It is a long work, it is a constant work, and we have to deal with the complexity and the uniqueness of each destination. Maybe you can recognize some of the logos you see here. So the approach we have with destinations and the outcomes will be very different. We also guide destinations toward obtaining the GSTC certification, mostly for destinations, but also for hotels. And we are also involved in a variety of projects at Italian, European, and international level. Many of the projects, these projects allow us to do research and development, so to work on innovation, nature-based and slow tourism product development. So what are we talking about today? We start from the basics. So what is a destination? What does it do? How it works and the success factors. And then we move to the core of our morning together, I would say, talking about stakeholder engagement. And the topic will be dealt more in depth by my colleague Riccardo. And then I will go back to some case studies and try to have a look at what the changing role of DMOs is. And I hope this 1.5 hours will be pleasant for you and enriching. Okay, so let's start from scratch. I am sure that many of you are not new to this definition. This is a purely academic definition by UN Tourism, and I encourage you to maybe go back to this definition after the webinar to see if your perception has changed in a critical and constructive way. So without reading all of it, let's try to unpack it. So we can see the destination as what? It is any chosen place where people spend an overnight. It is a cluster of products and services. It is at the same time a network of stakeholders, and it is a communicative unit. It has an image and an identity. But okay, so we said destination is a place where people spend the night. Why? Because it's attractive. It has natural or man-made attractions that people want to see, want to experience. But to dig a bit deeper, here are, let's say, three conditions for a destination to be recognized as such. First of all, destinations tend to and should self-recognize. So there is no point for someone from outside to determine what the destination should be, its name, its boundaries, etc. So destinations must, first of all, recognize themselves as such, as a unique whole. And the idea of being a destination should start from within. Secondly, recognition of the area as a destination by users. Of course, destinations must meet the needs of and wants of the market. They should speak to visitors. Visitors should be able to recognize a destination as such. And third point, the destination should be organized. We will see that not every destination has a DMO, but having a DMO, so a management structure is desirable. And why? Why is it desirable for a destination to have a DMO? We will see it straight away. So why managing a destination in the first place? Why not letting it be? So let's see 7 points taken from one of the latest documents of the World Bank, which I recommend you read. We will leave you the resources afterwards. So first of all, to improve tourism yield, so improve the gains coming from tourism activities. Then to protect communities and provide viable livelihoods. So seeing tourism as an alternative or an additional source of income, which is often the only alternative for some remote or smaller communities. Third, to reduce seasonality, which may cause problems such as overcrowding. Then to spread the benefits of tourism more widely. So spreading tourists in time and space across the destination. To increase awareness and enhance the image of the destination in order to attract maybe, to attract tourists or maybe a specific tourism target. Then to protect cultural or natural assets that are at risk of damage from tourism. Often these same assets are the reason that people travel to the destination. So the destination wants to keep these assets in a good state. And lastly, which is maybe the most important one, to ensure long-term sustainability. So all the above actions may be great in attracting tourists and increasing tourism numbers. But is there all there is? Like, do we just want to increase tourism numbers? Sustainability, I would say, is the new normal. It's not something separate from the normal management of a destination. So it should imbue every aspect of a DMO. And we could, of course, ask ourselves, when we talk about sustainability, what is the tourism model we are sustaining? Are we sustaining continuous visitors growth? But I will leave it for now because that's for another webinar maybe. But I would like to give you some provocation. And the second provocation I give you is that we could try and look at destination management in a critical way, of course. That's good. And management means control, right? But can we just control things now that we are in a we call it VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, or maybe we should pair management with adaptability. But that's a provocation I leave to you. Okay, so yes.
Sorry to interrupt. We are getting, and I think we believe also, we're seeing a delay in your presentation, what we hear and what we see.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, it helps to restart.
How much delay? What do you see now?
We were seeing the slide before, I think, with the bullet points.
I'm sorry. Which slide do you see now? Official definition of DMO? Or do you still see the 7 points?
Definition.
Okay, maybe I will try and... Ayako, you tell me if I'm speaking about the previous slide, so I can maybe wait for a bit or go slower, maybe.
And right now, what we see is slide number 8 with official definition of DMO.
Okay, great. This is my next one. So we're good. Okay. Thank you, Ayako. Okay, so this, I'm also sure you have read this definition many times if you are studying or working in the tourism field. So, okay, we know what destination is, we know why we need to manage it, but who manages? So the entity managing a destination is a DMO. So a destination manager or marketing organization, we will go back to that. Without reading all of it, we could focus on some points. So what is a DMO? DMOs are facilitators. So they facilitate tourism sector partnerships, but not only that, I would add, we will see that. They are made of partners and stakeholders that should focus around a shared destination vision. This is very important. DMOs can have different governance models. Their role is coordinating and managing several activities. We read here, so implementation of tourism policies, strategic planning, product development, promotion and marketing, and not always, but often convention bureau activities. Their function vary according to the organizational level. There is a whole, let's say, there are a set of slides around that. And not every destination has a DMO. We have to acknowledge that. I will now move to the next slide. Can you see it? Or is it that much of delay? DMO's roles and responsibilities.
Now, yes.
Okay. I count on your thumbs up, Ayako. Thank you. Okay, so let's now unpack the roles and responsibilities of DMOs. So we will see some points that should be the tasks allocated to DMOs, but not every DMOs does all of that. But this is the desirable list, let's say. So first of all, they should create space for dialogue, coordinate, and collaborate for use of limited funding. This is quite clear. They should enable different stakeholders to contribute to a larger function. This point here, this is a very broad role, I'm aware. So on the one hand, it means managing or assisting tourism development projects that involve several stakeholders, partners and operators. At the same time, this role may encompass what we call internal marketing actions. So meaning the communication the destination does to residents. So the destination speaks to residents in order to align the vision around a single destination vision. Then third point, they facilitate the destination strategy and planning processes. Managing, so this means managing or assisting the preparation of a tourism strategy and action plan for the destination together with the partners. Then they do marketing research, of course. Knowing the market is essential for targeting tourists and communicating effectively, adjusting the destination strategy, etc. And then they provide cohesive communication, so not just inside, so outside. So they communicate to travelers. They promote the destination as a whole. So they create an identity for the destination to communicate out there, let's say. What they also do is gather statistics, monitor, and evaluate. So they provide, let's say, research and intelligence services. This is a very important point, especially with all the talking about data today. There is a quote saying, if you cannot measure, you cannot manage it. No, maybe you have heard of it. So interpreting and making use of data is complex. It's a complex task, but it is very important and helpful today. And data does not only mean numbers, so quantitative data, but also qualitative data. For instance, visit sentiment, resident attitude toward tourism. How can you measure and manage this data? So this is a challenge for destinations. Next 2 points, and this will come a bit later. Another role that DMOs have is assisting tourism operators, in particular smaller businesses and associations. Sometimes smaller businesses is all that a destination have. There are some destinations where there are no big chains, for instance. So it's a complex task of assisting them and coordinating them. For example, they can offer training or support with the digitalization, and they work with operators on what is called the tourism product. We will see that later. And lastly, DMOs represent the destination in discussion with upper level, so government level, tour operators, transport and mobility services, etc. And we said destination have a vision, DMOs should have a mandate. that can be broad, and it can also be restrictive. So are they just doing marketing? Are they doing marketing and management? We will see how this is evolving. And the destination management organization's roles and responsibilities are normally stated in what we call a DMP, Destination Management Plan, or strategic plan, or operational plan. But just to say, it is something written that changes every maybe 1 or 3 or 5 or 10 years. It depends on the strategic plan and on the destination. Okay, so let's move to some common character, because we said DMOs are managing unique destinations, so they also are unique in a way, but they have some common characteristics. So they are non-profit, they are guided by a board and dedicated staff. Remember that tourism is made by human resources. It is important to have people working at DMOs. I'm happy to see that some DMOs have 40 people working. Some are still growing, but we're getting to that. And they have also published a regulation on how the DMO works. They have a procedure and rules on membership of diverse stakeholders, and they get their revenue from, as we said, membership, taxes, bookings. They need to guarantee their economic sustainability under some financing form, better if from different financing streams. And they have different, they come in different shapes and forms, let's say. So we have national tourism authorities or organizations, regional and local DMOs, and local DMOs. When I say DMO, I use this term in a very wide way, in a general way. So I use it for all these 3 categories, but we will see later how these categories differ. So different organizational levels have different roles and responsibilities. Okay, so let's move to that. We like, when we speak to destinations and operators, and we try to explain what a destination is and a DMO is, we like to use the image of a Russian doll. So this helps us explain the different organizational levels that are entailed in destination management. So for instance, can you see the Russian dolls, Ayako? Yes, okay. So for instance, let's take our guest Valsugana as an example. So Valsugana is a destination, of course, is a regional, local, it's a local, I would say, destination. But it is just one of the Russian dolls, because it is inside many other levels. So for instance, we have what we could call meta destinations. So Valsugana is inside a bigger destination, which is the Dolomites, which is a UNESCO site. So there is an entity behind this. It is a UNESCO foundation, the Dolomites Foundation, which is guiding it. But the Dolomites UNESCO Foundation does not have a tourism development aim. Its aim is heritage protection. Okay. Then we have the destination, which is at a regional level. And there is an entity managing it, which is called Trentino Marketing. It is the regional authority that manages what we call the umbrella brand. So it is the Trentino brand, which has under it many local brands. Usually, as we are talking about a mountain destination, the regional brands are identified with the valleys, the mountain valleys. Okay, so Valsugana is one of these valleys. So Valsugana has some roles and responsibilities, which are mainly due with, they are the point of contact with the territory. And then inside the region, the local, organization, we have some hotspots. We have here Artesella, which is just an example. Artesella is an open-air land art museum. It's very popular. Many people travel there, even for a day visit. And for hotspots, so places that are very famous, they may need specific management plans because of overcrowding, because they attract a substantial amount of visitors. Okay. I hope this is clear. Keep in mind the Russian dolls if it may help you. Okay, so I have some very packed tables here. We will not read through it, but we will leave you the slides so you can maybe study a bit. So we said different organizational levels have different functions. Why do we need 3 or 4 levels? Why cannot we just have one DMO doing everything? So for instance, the development of strategic plan, we have said earlier, all levels, so let's say the national, the regional, and the hotspot level develop their plan that are at the same time specific of their level, but they are embedded in the other levels. So all these levels communicate, of course. You see how, especially at the local regional level, the work is on coordinating locally the entities and making a link with all stakeholders. This is something that is more effective doing, of course, at the local level rather than the national level. So a DMO at the let's say upper level, is not working without the work done by the regional or local level. At the same time, the regional and local level needs a bigger organization to help them do things that they would not be able to guarantee, such as maybe monitoring international markets or buying some very expensive smart management tools. So these levels communicate and they are useful, like they serve each other. Okay. Then how do we manage hospitality in these different levels? So for instance, the DMO at national level coordinates the tourism offices while the regional level or local level manages these offices. What about projects? You see, the wider DMO needs to involve, of course, the local tourism organizations to writing their destination management plan. So the link is, so the local level opens discussion tables with administrations and associations. So that's what I mean when I say the local and regional tourism organizations are the link with the territory, because they are there, they know it better than the national DMO, for instance. Then what about, sorry, I wanted to speak about training. So training, maybe the DMO creates opportunities for training while the local level helps disseminate this training. About the tourism product, it is developed at a wider level. So the DMO, this is a very important point I would like to stress. So the DMO manages complex products such as the film commission or bike and hike tourism products. And bike, cycle and hiking tourism products, by definition, they do not stand within administrative borders. So you need cooperation for that product to happen. And the role of DMO is to coordinate these complex products. Then at the local level, the local organizations guarantee the functioning, the quality of the product. And lastly, speaking of promotion and commercialization, sorry, it is the DMO, so the upper level, who has the strength maybe to reach, to supervise international markets, while the local level focuses on promoting the tourism product. It's a lot, I know. Okay, so moving to the governance. So moving a bit into the realm of governance, which may be a very strange word for those who do not know it, but it is a very important. Meaning, what does governance mean? Merging interests of public and private parts when doing tourism. So what are some tips for good governance? So having a strong leadership, someone leading the process, defining clear roles and responsibilities, which we have just seen, having clear operational structures and processes in place for decision making. We have seen that as well. Engaged, involved, and included communities. I have put that in green because we will have time to speak about that later. Having engaging marketing, which works on storytelling. So it's a nuanced form of marketing, let's say. So telling stories about the place, not just trying to sell the place. Then product development, because the destination does not work if they cannot offer products to their visitors. And to have a product, you need to work on having a solid governance. We have seen that with the bike and hike tourism example. So you need collaboration between public and private to have the product work. So developing and sharing expertise. Tourism, we say, is more about benchmarking than just technical definition. You have to benchmark, you have to do knowledge sharing, get to know your neighbors, to know other destinations, take the good out of them, talk with them, share. So you have to keep on learning, to be flexible and to adapt. The provocation that I've given you at the beginning. And then create a diverse tourism system. So allow for operators to specialize, to offer different products. They need to follow their vocation while staying true to the vision of the destination. So what are some success factors for our lovely, beloved DMOs? So of course, we could ask ourselves what success means for us. But let's stick to some points and to see success of a DMO from a sustainability perspective. So having a engaged is underlined because we will talk about it later, an engaged multi-stakeholder approach. Developing community-driven programs, so ideas and vision coming from the community, living at the destination. Of course, bottom-up approaches are important, but also the support of the top-down is important. So having supporting governments, not just doing marketing, but also working on management and governance, maximizing community benefits in everything you do, and also ensure, we have seen that, ensure multiple financing streams, so multiple multi-revenue sources. Okay, so that's the picture we have today, but even destination management and destination management plans are evolving. So I invite all of you who is interested or who is working in tourism or wants to do that to have a look at different destination management plans from time to time, because they could give you some very interesting insights. So for instance, I have found here a destination management plan from the Bay of Plenty, New Zealand. We're starting to include some interesting new dimensions. So social license. I'm not sure all of you have heard of social license. It refers, I read the dictionary definition, the ongoing acceptance and approval of a project, activity, or organization by local communities and stakeholders. Okay, this may sound clear, right? What does it mean in tourism? It means that even if an activity is legally permitted, it is not enough. You need to have the social acceptance and the support by the people who live in the destination. So we are talking here about transparency, communication, trust. And why is social license important? I'm sure all of you have read this summer or the last couple of months about the issue of over-tourism or anti-tourism movements. So without social license, tourism projects may face some resistance, some conflicts, even if they comply with formal regulations. But if you don't have the support of the community, it is a mess. So, okay, so I'm moving towards the end of my speech, so I will leave it to Riccardo later. So let's take that further. Okay, we have said, we have seen that the roles and responsibilities of DMOs have to do with the governance, management, and marketing sphere. Okay, why did I picture a pyramid here? Because we need to have a solid base of governance. We cannot just see the tip. Marketing is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm not saying marketing is not important. All these dimensions are important, but we need to have a solid base made of governance and acknowledge that tourism is just more than doing marketing. So what if there was a fourth dimension under governance? I'm sure many of you are familiar with this word, and the fourth dimension is stewardship. But what is stewardship? It is a complex and fascinating concept. I find it fascinating, and I don't know about you. At its simplest, it means managing and taking care of the destination. So this concept speaks about collective responsibility and having a long-term vision. And I don't know about your language, but in Italian, it is very difficult to translate stewardship into a single word. So it is a very important concept that we still struggle to pass it to people who are sometimes reluctant to have English words. But when we explain the concept, they are totally on board, because stewardship is an approach to destination governance. So it stands at the very base of governance. It speaks of the balance, it speaks of, yes, the balance between economic, environmental, and social-cultural dimensions, but it stresses the participation aspect. So indeed, active participation from public, private sector, as well as the local community. So in a way, the concept is groundbreaking. It is simple, but it is groundbreaking, as it tells us one thing. So tourism is no longer just about tourism itself. Tourism done good means caring for the quality of life of residents and caring for places, and caring for places that before being destinations, they are places with people living, working, loving their place. And travel and tourism ultimately is about loving the places we travel to, right? So I will now do the step towards stakeholder engagement, because we have seen that we need active participation in tourism from public, private, and community. So we need to engage all the stakeholders, and we will see later with Riccardo that participation itself works at different levels. So there are different shades of participation. But let's see why a general involvement of stakeholders in tourism, this is the case specific for tourism, is important. So why? Because without engagement, you cannot really be sustainable, right? And participation increases the quality of decision that are then shared. They become shared decisions. It democratizes decision-making and creates social cohesion, the trust we talked about earlier. What is the potential of stakeholder engagement? It creates social capital in a community, which is very, very important. It creates a sense of identity, belonging, and co-responsibility. So everyone becomes responsible for the tourism development in their own destination. It creates trust. It allows for multi-sectoral perspectives. And also it allows for innovation to come in, right? Because if you hear different voices, innovation can spark and increases the sustainability of the initiatives which are shared. There are some risks. We like to say that participation is great, but the risks are maybe big. So it can create conflicts, of course. Conflicts are good. Conflicts are constructive, but you need to know how to manage them. Then if the process is not managed in the right way, it can fail, and it can create, again, conflicts, resistance to change. It can be costly in time and money. Of course, you need time to do these things. And also the most important one, I think, it can create false expectations, because if you engage people in participation and then you do not follow up, it's like you lose their trust. You do not build, but lose their trust, let's say. And lastly, how in which tourism area can we apply participatory planning? So designing strategic plans, we have seen that earlier, establishing business networks between different businesses who want to work on a tourism product, for instance, the bike and hike tourism product, to create policy, and to involve operators in search for solutions. So the purposes are many, and as you can see, they are quite complex purposes, but these are the most used ones, let's say. Okay, so where next? What we have seen so far is a lot, I know, but there is more. So I will now leave the floor to Riccardo for some interesting insights into stakeholder engagement, more practice, the practical one. And we will later move to see some examples, to have their inputs on how destination management is evolving. Thank you. I will stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you, Alessia. For those of you who shared with us in the question about the delay, apologies if you experienced this. I think we saw that a bit as well. And we will, as mentioned before, continue now with the second presentation. Maybe because there were a couple of questions related to specific points. If we can, perhaps, Alessia, you can also respond in writing here as well. But some of these, if we have time later on, we will pick up during the session. But as I mentioned in the chat, we will make sure to respond to all of your questions in writing following the webinar to make sure we address this. And during the live session today, as much as we can, we will pick up where possible. So with that, thank you, Alessia, for providing a framework for what we're talking about. I think this is really useful for me also. For those of you who are also visual learners, I think it's always helpful to have this kind of framework that we can use to refer to when we learn about new concepts and ideas. And as Alessia mentioned, Riccardo is going to share with you and much deeper into this specific topic that we mentioned, stakeholder engagement. And you will learn in 10 steps what to do and what not to do also, I guess, as well. So Riccardo, floor is yours.
Thank you, Ayako. Just to know, do you have still 20 minutes, or do you want to reduce a little bit?
Yes.
20 minutes. Okay, perfect. So, welcome, hello to everybody. I have this tough task to try to summarize what a stakeholder engagement is. I could talk for hours, days, probably about this topic. So when I was trying to figure out what to say, I make this exercise. How can I summarize stakeholder engagement maybe in 10 steps? So that's why this title, stakeholder engagement in 10 steps. So Alessia underlined the word stewardship, multitasking approach, and so on. But she also mentioned the risks of engaging stakeholders. So I'm here to talk about this topic. First of all, why I'm saying these things, because I am a facilitator in Etifor. My background is social statistics. I always used qualitative approaches like focus groups and so on. And since 5-6 years, I am a full-time facilitator. I facilitate mainly in environmental and touristic context, but I also facilitate in several other kind of contexts and topics and so on. But here we are about to talk about facilitation in tourism. Okay. So why it's important? Step one. So when you have to manage stakeholder engagement, you should wonder why. Okay, why? Why stakeholder engagement? For me, we can say that there are 3 reasons. Because you improve the quality of decision, even if maybe the process can be longer, but you are able to face complexity, to acquire new knowledge, competencies. There is a mutual learning among stakeholders. It's possible to identify a priori conflicts and to appraise diversity. Second reason is democracy in decision, okay? The perception is that it's a democratic, okay? Even if maybe it is not sometimes, but it's really stakeholder engagement, participation, it's an horizontal governance, okay? And it helps us in guiding and not suffering changes. Okay, because every opinion is important and we are able to face complex situation, risks in touristic destination. We work a lot about climate change risks and so on. So thanks to this, you are able to guide the changes of the society and of the destination. The third point is social cohesion. Okay, because Alessia already mentioned the concept of social capital. For sure, when you attend a well-managed process of stakeholder engagement, people have increased the sense of belonging. There is also an increase of co-responsibility. You create networks, you work on consensus and so on. Okay, so this is why. But before starting stakeholder engagement process, you should also wonder why not. Okay, and for me, this is a very, very important point, because there was a paper of Cook and Kotari that was entitled Participation, a New Tyranny, because now everywhere people talks about participation, we need to engage our stakeholders, but then we have no idea what to do. Okay, so sometimes the first question when people contact me to facilitate some processes is, are you sure? Okay, are you sure that this is the right thing, that for your context, for your problem, for your situation in some destination, maybe it is not necessary. Okay, and there are several reasons for why not, but for me, what summarizes everything is that stakeholder engagement creates big expectation on people, and if you are not able to handle the expectation, the risk is that you lose your credibility and you generate a frustration. Okay, and it's better to avoid stakeholder engagement, okay? Because maybe sometimes you already know the solution, or maybe the initial objective was not clear, or maybe it's a rhetoric, false promise of participation. Maybe the communication is not transparent, or maybe it's more a political reason that moves sometimes the destination to engage the stakeholders. Or maybe you have not the competencies, okay, to manage the complexity, because of course stakeholder engagement helps you in managing complexity, but you must have the competencies and the skills to do this. So the second step is why not? And I always ask this question to people who ask me to facilitate some process. The first step, okay, so if you decide, okay, let's start with a stakeholder engagement process. The first step is which kind of stakeholder engagement do you want? Okay, so what is the level? In literature, you find several definitions of what participation is. What I like a lot is this taxonomy that subdivide stakeholder engagement in 4 steps, and all the 4 for me are good, okay, because they depends on your objectives. Okay, so step 1 is what is called knowledge transfer, so one directional. I have something to communicate, I have to involve for a minor consultancy my stakeholders, but if I do it in a proper way, for me it's stakeholder engagement. The second step is that is consultation. So I have already my idea, but I need to consult my stakeholders in my destination, maybe to get some ideas, to make some brainstorming, or maybe to consult them accordingly to some risks of the destination, so on. It's bi-directional, but the final decision is mine as a destination, okay? Instead, sometimes a destination asks us to co-plan, to decide with the stakeholders. This is called active participation. We decide together, okay? This must be communicated in a very, very fair way. Okay, must be very clear which is your aim. The fourth one normally is not linked to tourism, but it's important, is what is called empowerment. So the destination, the stakeholders of destination are so used to participate, to be active, that they manage some parts of the destination governance by themselves. Step 4 is when. Okay, you can engage your stakeholders in every phase of a project cycle. So you have an idea, a project, you want to develop something, you can engage your stakeholder in the identification phase and the formulation, or during the programming, or during the implementation or the evaluation at different levels. So maybe you can involve people just consulting in identification, you can co-design together in the formulation, and so on. What is important is the two schemes that the two frameworks that you see here, the one in the bottom right of the corner is the framework of design thinking. On the upper one is another framework. The idea of stakeholder engagement is that you have always to figure out if you are in the phase of divergence or convergence. Okay, are you asking people consultation because you need new ideas, so you're opening, okay, or you need to take a decision and so to converge. So this accordation shape moves has we get inspiration by this accordation shape when we design a stakeholder engagement process. And so when you want to engage your stakeholder in any phase of your project, touristic project, so on, you have to think, do I want to diverge or to converge? Okay, in which phase am I? Okay, so this is super important. When you decide, so you decided that you want to do it, you decided which level of participation and when to apply it, the fifth step for me is stakeholder mapping and analysis. And you see that I'm not still talking about the techniques, okay? The techniques is one of the last steps. And for me, this is super important. Stakeholder mapping and analysis for me is one of the key steps when you design your stakeholder engagement process. Okay, because the identification of stakeholder is essential. It's key. It's democratic. Okay, and there are several techniques that you can use. Here you can find on the corner 3 steps of a publication that we did as Etifor, okay, that you can download online. So the first step is mapping. I need to know who are my stakeholders, okay. Then I have to plan my design, to design my stakeholder engagement process, and then to act. But the first step is mapping, and mapping means I have to know who my stakeholders are, and then I have to select them in a transparent way, okay? And there are several ways to do this. You see, for instance, the radar here in the slide, the radar, okay, technique that helps you to distinguish your stakeholders in different targets. This was an example taken by a project we had some years ago. We divided our targets, our stakeholders in public, national, international, private association, and private business. And then you put the more important stakeholders in the center of the radar. Another way is this is an hour matrix that helps you to divide your stakeholders in 4 boxes. And for instance, here you see examples. If you put in one axis knowledge and another one the political influence, you can divide your stakeholders in who is necessary, who is important for implementing, who is important for harvesting, who instead is less important. What is interesting of these techniques is that you can use the variable you want. So instead of knowledge, you can put proximity, okay, or the variable that you need to select your stakeholders. Why you need this ranking? Because maybe you want to diverge, so you will invite everybody. But maybe at a certain point, you need to converge to take a decision, and so you need less stakeholders. And if you did this stakeholder analysis at the beginning, it's easy because you will select only the stakeholders, for instance, in the box on the right top corner. Okay, so these are just some examples, but there are multiple techniques used in stakeholder mapping and analysis, but this step is crucial, and on this I focus a lot. Then step 6 is, okay, who will help me in conducting this process? And so who is the facilitator? So I describe my job. I think that it's very important to understand the competencies of a facilitator, because improvisation makes a lot of, it can be very risky, and it can be one of the reason of not implementing a stakeholder engagement. And so IAF, the International Association of Facilitators, says that facilitator is like an architect, okay, because he or she plans the agenda, design the process on. When the agenda is ready, he or she is like a pilot, conducting the meeting, giving the rules, giving the roles, sharing the objectives, being able to unexpected events during this journey. Okay, but the facilitator is also a guide. Okay, because a stakeholder engagement process can be something unusual. Okay, and the guide helps leads the group in an unexplored territory. Okay, transmits confidence to take a good decision. I also compare the facilitator to a juggler, because you have always to manage 3 balls. Okay, you have to manage the content to be sure that the group is working on the right content that you need to discuss, manage the technique evolution. Okay, so if I'm conducting a focus group, I need to use the focus group rules. If I'm conducting an open space technology, I need to use the open space technology rules. And then it manages also the dynamics of the group. So conflicts, discussions, power roles, okay, because not every stakeholder has the same power, okay, formal or informal powers and so on. And so this is the role of facilitator. Once you have decided who is your facilitator, now you decide which technique. So you see that the technique is the 7th step. Okay. Sometimes I smile when the people say, we want to make stakeholder engagement and we want to use the focus group. No, it depends. It depends on what? On your objectives, on the level of participation, okay, that you want to adopt. It depends on your stakeholders, okay? Are you involving your public stakeholders, private, both? It depends. Every technique, there are several long list of techniques that we use normally. For instance, in this picture, you see a fishbowl, you can see a future search conference, you can see a quarter walking, all this, there are plenty of techniques, and normally you should choose the technique that better fits to your previous steps. And this is essential. Okay, so on this I don't stay too much, because I don't it was impossible in 20 minutes to talk about techniques, but just to tell you that the techniques is only the 7th step, okay, of your planning. And there are techniques for listening. So you need just to listen. So focus groups, brainstorming, so on. Techniques for constructive interaction, like Proaction Cafe, Work Cafe, and so on. And then there are specific techniques for conflict management. So if you already know that among your key stakeholders there are some conflicts, you want to face these conflicts, there are specific techniques for this, like Jigsaw, Citizen Court, human maps, and so on. Okay, so step 7, once you decide your techniques, you have to decide which material. Okay, and for me, materials is one independent step, because normally people take jokes on me because I move with a bigger luggage with a lot of material every time I move to facilitate stakeholder engagement processes, but because material is part of the engagement. Okay, so here you see a photo. The central photo was a process that we did in Chioggia, destination management of Chioggia, close to Venice. On the left was another process, and so on. Each material can be used in different ways and helps a lot the interactions. So that's why for me it's fundamental to talk about material. Instead, step 9 for me is very funny, is where. Okay, as I told you at the beginning, I don't facilitate only touristic processes. I facilitate in several contexts, but for me the most challenging venues are always the destination ones. Okay, so the touristic ones, because every time we needed to make a stakeholder engagement process, the destinations want to show the best of the what they can offer. So they provide me amazing venues. Okay, but normally for me there is a inverse correlation among the beauty of a venue and the functionality of the venue. Okay, so this is an example of some stakeholder engagement process we did in a castle or in a villa. Okay, absolutely a nightmare for a facilitator. Okay, for me the venue makes the 50% of the final output of a stakeholder engagement process. So this is a tip, and I always I need to check the venue before I needed the photos and so on. The last step, it's not less important than the others, and then I conclude. And because the typical question after the COVID was end online, okay? And my answer is that it's different, but it's feasible. Okay, so even, for instance, last week I facilitated online. Okay, during COVID, we transformed all the participatory processes where we were involved online. Okay, so I'm not scared about online. Sometimes there are some pros. Okay, but what my key message here is that it's different, of course, because the interaction is different, the preparation, the planning is different, the engagement of stakeholders is different, okay? But everything is feasible. So if you want to make a specific activity, can be transformed online. Here you see some photos of, for instance, an ice breaking online, no problem. Stakeholder mapping online is feasible. Focus group, here you see a photo of a work cafe online. Again, it's feasible. Human mapping online, it's feasible. So my key message here is that yes, it's feasible. So if you need to engage your stakeholder for any reason, because sometimes there are some pros, your stakeholders are difficult to be reached because are in mountain areas, or you want to join a different destination managers, okay? Sometimes it's difficult to be in presence. Online, it's possible. Okay, so with this, I conclude. So thank you very much for your attention, 20 minutes exactly. So I leave the floor to you, Ayako.
Thank you again, Riccardo, for covering so much and providing a lot of practical insights in such a compact way. Speaking of insights and resources, Riccardo has also provided the list of resources that are linked to his presentation. As mentioned before, you will receive an email with the recording of the webinar as well as the slides. So you will have links to these as well, but you can also take this document with the list of the resources provided by Riccardo. And thank you for the questions that we see so far. As mentioned, we will move forward with the presentation. We're taking notes, we're making sure to capture all of these, and we'll respond to all the questions that you have in writing in follow-up. So
I will answer in the chat to the questions to my presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. So we will have, as mentioned before, the follow-up to Alessia's first part of the presentation, going a bit deeper into the last bit of stewardship that she was starting to present. And what we're going to attempt now is, hopefully, this will make the viewing experience a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
Starting here, and Alessia, you just tell me when I move to the next slide.
Okay. Can you hear me well, or can you hear me with the... Okay. I'm sorry for earlier. The connection was not good, and I got too excited while speaking of destination, so pardon me. Okay, so I will be shorter this time, and I will try to go slower. So let's reintroduce the concept of stewardship. This is the dictionary definition. So stewardship as the responsible overseeing and protection of something considered worth caring for. So the concept of care again. Next, please. So I'm quite sure you are also familiar with this scheme. So even European Commission is speaking of smart stewardship. So they have this project called Smart Tourism Destination. I'm sure you know about that. And they also see the evolution of destinations from smart marketing to smart management to ultimately smart stewardship. So smart tourism destinations is a rather new and complex concept, and we will not go in depth right now, maybe in another webinar, but it is just to say that smart does not only have to do with data and with infrastructure and technology, but it gives a lot of importance to the governance side. If you are familiar with there is like a beehive scheme of all the aspects important for becoming a smart tourism destination, because I have it here now. We have the governance side, the building skills in people for dealing with the complexity of today's world, then having, of course, appropriate infrastructure and technology, developing appropriate strategy, and also helping businesses and entrepreneurs working with data. Next, please. Thank you. So this is also a very packed scheme. As you will maybe have time to read through it later on. But if we focus on the smart stewardship column, we see how more and more focus is given on community and the well-being of community. So again, it's not just about data. And so you see how the scope of the DMO's roles is broadening. Next one. Okay, now to my favorite project. Of course, I am sure you know this, Democracy. It is a project that lasted, I guess, 3 years. And they published this wonderful white paper, which I linked there, so you can go have a look at it. It was a project that was seeking new governance models in tourism development. So how could citizens be involved, and how could DMOs be part of that? So they built the Democracy model. In their words, the project wants to empower local communities toward the future of tourism, shifting from tourism as a goal to tourism as a means, which I have mentioned in the beginning, if you remember, to build better societies and communities. So tourism is it is no longer about tourism. The report here illustrates the participatory methods specific to tourism, which actually include many of the things that Riccardo has illustrated us. And next, please. And I would like to read through here because, yes, their purpose was, how can the DMO, so what is the new role of the DMO? The DMOs need to reimagine value proposition and the license, the social license we have mentioned, to operate in a time where the growing visitor numbers are increasingly perceived as detrimental to natural well-being and local quality of life. This is a very strong sentence if you stop and think about it. So on the other hand, how can the DMO become a legitimate trusted, so social capital, trust, part of the conversation on the future of tourism for the communities they represent. So the 8 steps you see there, they are, let's say, the 8 participatory methods they have identified, the 8 approaches for participation in tourism. I invite you to go read through them if you are maybe involved in this, you want to experiment with this. And next, please. So what the DMocracy model also asks DMOs is to be fluid. Fluid is also sometimes a overused word, but seeing fluid role of the DMO means that they have a different spectrum of responsibilities that they can undertake, and they try to figure DMOs as in 4 ways. So DMOs should, of course, promote the value of tourism, but it should be a value that it is decided among all stakeholders, so a shared value. Then DMOs should balance community interests with the tourism interests. Not an easy task. Good luck, DMOs. Then they should invite collaboration for better tourism. So conflicts may arise, different methods may be used. And then they should contribute to community efforts and priorities for better tourism. So what is a community's priority? Is it visitor numbers? Is it different visitors? Is it like, I would be harsh here, closing down a certain part of the city because they don't want tourism anymore? How can we dialogue? How can we bridge the different points of view? So good luck, DMOs. Be aware of this and use it at best. Okay, next one, please. I give you another example here, how the DMOs are trying to evolve their roles. Here is a participatory process initiated by the Bordeaux Tourism and Convention Office. They initiated a 2 years, I guess, same 2 to 3 years participatory process, and they started engaging in a co-design path to write the tourism and event strategies for 2026. So they started open discussions with, let's say, 3 categories: the residents, visitors, and also operators. And they gathered qualitative and quantitative data. They are all public on that website I linked. So they created, again, these discussion tables, then they feeded back what emerged to the same actors, and then they had other tables again and feedback, so what we call a feedback loop. And then they developed a roadmap, and the roadmap is made of 32 actions, yes, again, around 30 actions, let's say, with objectives, indicators, timetable, who is responsible, etc. And these actions then are part of the metropolitan tourism strategy. So again, how do we use stakeholder engagement to build a destination strategy? Next, please. Okay, here again, we have, like, you may know that, for instance, Copenhagen's, they are champions in this. You know all about the last Copenpay project. No, what is that? It's, yeah, it's a project that they will redo this year, I heard. But they also launched their new tourism strategy, which is called All Inclusive. A great play on words, in my opinion. And in this new strategy, they really gave much more focus on caring for residents, caring for the well-being of residents. So all the 3 main points of their strategy, which I listed here, they're focused on well-being of residents, but also well-being of tourists, because they want to have to give enriching encounters to tourists. So it's a mutual connection between visitors and tourism. So also creating spaces for, tourists and visitors to meet, and also tourism leaving a larger socio-economic value for more people. So tourism is inclusive in this way. Next, please. This is also a very good one. This is part of the Northeast England Regenerative Visitor Economy Framework. So you see how the regenerative word now is emerging. And I was struck by this sentence in particular. So they used a principle called Sanford principle, used in environmental landscape domain, and they adapted it to the tourism domain. So they said, in case of irreconcilable conflicts in the development of the visitor economy, the well-being of the community and the environment should take precedence over purely economic consideration. I think this is striking. So you see how far-reaching the thinking is going in planning tourism at destinations. Next one, please. And here some more hints from the Canada latest tourism strategy, which is also focused on regeneration. Indeed, it is called a regenerative approach to tourism in Canada. And they question how to measure progress, how to measure success. So we see here in this table issues as questioning what a just job is, what is a sustainable job, how can we be more welcoming? So going back to the root of what tourism is, which is welcoming people, right? And then they state how can tourism be transformational? Transformative is also a word that is very much used now in the domain of regeneration. So how can the destination offer transformative experiences to their travelers, so they can, of course, because when we speak about regeneration, we speak about regenerating the place, but also regenerating the person traveling. So being a better person, being a more active person. And these are just words, I know, written in a strategy, but if you think about it, it is groundbreaking again, because this is what, like, business as usual tourism does not speak of transformation and well-being and community over visitor economy. And yeah, I will leave you with this food for thought. Next one, which is also almost the last one. Okay, so I'm also sure you're familiar with this, which is the donut economic model. This is not specific to tourism, but this is just a thinking point for me to tell how DMOs are starting to think and should increasingly be thinking about issues of social justice, for instance, or climate justice. There is a report published by, I don't remember whom, about climate justice in tourism, and also about decolonial approaches in tourism. So things are moving, and maybe, like you see here, like, just to explain this graph a bit for those who are not familiar with it, the framework is made to rethink economic balancing the human needs, which is what you see in the inner circle, with the environmental, the ecological ceiling, which we should not cross. So we should not cross the ecological ceiling, but we should also not go below the social circle. So the safe and just space for humanity is what stands inside the two circles. So it does not focus on endless growth, but yes, promotes a very balanced approach. But just 1 minute to explain this is not enough, but just to say that this is an approach that destinations are or should be tending to as well. But there is still no, as far as I know, no real study on tourism on this. But if you know about donut economics and tourism studies, just let me know, please. Okay, next one. So DMOs of the future should they be engaged in doing different measurements, maybe different metrics when it comes to tourism. This example here is a corporate example. It's it's taken from hotel resort. It's not from a destination, but you see here the economic nutrition label they used to promote the resort. So they state where the money spent there goes to. What does the money spent by the visitor go? Sorry. So salaries, wages, food, room supplies, business operation, insurance, sales and marketing, and there was COVID there again, but still. So just to leave you with a thinking point, should DMOs of the future be engaged in measuring, for instance, things as, of course, what we call leakages, or how the economy, or how the money is distributed, what does it fuel, and maybe measuring resident happiness? Is it something we could measure? Yes, no, I'm not sure. Very last one. Next, please. And this is more for you who are maybe trying to find their place in the tourism field. So I think that with new responsibilities come new needs. And so we will need new professional figures that we should be able to deal with complexity, the VUCA word, uncertainty, ambiguity, volatility. So they need new skills. They will come from a variety of backgrounds. So multidisciplinarity is very important. So I know of destinations who hired engineers, like environmental engineers, ecologists, data analysts, of course, people coming from social sciences, and also facilitators, which are very, very important. And then I think we need people bringing some critical thinking, because we constantly need to question while being constructive, of course. And also people that consider sustainability as the new normal. So we have what we call sustainability managers, but everyone maybe should be a sustainability manager. Like sustainability manager should lead the way to make everything we do sustainable and eventually regenerative. And anything else that may come to mind, please write it in the chat. I'm happy to read it. Okay, thank you. I am done. I'm sorry if the connection was unstable, but I'm happy to read your questions in the chat.
I think it worked better. And yeah, thank you for providing additional inspirations. And I think I just wanted to mention one point related to some of the last points you made about new ways of measuring success. This ties very nicely, a bit of commercial here, to the next webinar that we have in our series as well. We're going to be diving into a bit more on socioeconomic impacts and looking at how we measure. But for now, let's go to our next segment. Michele, thank you so much for patiently waiting and being with us for so long. So we have the opportunity to, I think, maybe look at all of this from a more practical perspective, to learn from a real-life destination case study, an example of a certified destination, what they have been doing to really put a lot of these concepts into practice. Michele, again, is the general manager of the DMO in Valsugana in Italy, which has also been a great supporter and partner of the WeNaTour project. So we're really happy to be able to share your example. Thank you so much for being part of our session today. And you will be sharing your...
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Ayako. Welcome, everyone. I am pleasure to stay with you to explain my experience, my work experience. And in preview, apologize for my accent or my English is not very well, but I would like to explain all topics of my work. And so, in fact, I have written a document and I would like to read with you. And now, share my presentation.
Yes.
And so, just for time, 1 minute. I am I am a general manager at Valsugana DMO. I studied the environment and tourism economics and management at the University of Trento. And so I think that is important for my experience and my curriculum. So moreover, over 10 years, I have a destination manager in Italy, in particular way in a little region, for example, Abruzzo, Molise, Sardinia, in my consulting firm to destination marketing and destination support for local community. So for 3 years, I have worked in TSM, Trentino School Management. This is a public entity inside to Provincia Autonoma of Trento that improve of and worked to improve tourist plan for DMO in Trentino. My DMO is one of 12 DMO in Trentino. And we have a big DMO. Why? Because in my society, we have 29 municipalities. And the DMO, the my DMO is a composite of public entities and private enterprises or private entrepreneurs. In fact, my economic balance, to 49% is public, okay, and 51% of my economic balance is private quotas. So now I would like to share with you my presentation. Okay. So the tourism is a dynamic sector and is very complex because inside we have to consider many topics and many problems. In fact, tourism, this is my definition, and I love this. Tourism is a complex socio-economic system involving various actors, local communities, visitors, and environment. Sustainable development depends on balancing these components, avoiding negative impacts on cultural identity and residents' quality of life. And the claim is DMO are the intersection of these dynamics. For example, when we talk about entrepreneurs or measures or various people or local people, we have to consider in past the tourist index, for example, these tourist arrivals or overnight stays. But this is our old schools. This is outdated because the presence and arrivals is not to explain in particular way the tourism about in destination, and if we consider the sustainability and the respect of environment and of residents. The role of DMO is not future but is present, is managing balance. More than marketing, is a coordinator of sustainability. In fact, the literary is full topics negative about the over tourism. The tourism sector, we have negative effects inside in the local, for example, in impact with local population and environment. And I think that the destination manager is responsible for balancing economic development and sustainability, ensuring long-term value without harming the social and economic fabric of host communities. And the claim is, it's not about promotion alone, it's about stewardship. Stewardship is a term that repeat when Riccardo and Alessia said that the future of the destination management, because it's very important. It's the center point about my work. Is a strategic to explain, to give insight, new project and new vision. The problem about tourism are famous when we talk about tourism-led gentrification, over tourism and touristification, or for example, mass tourism and standardization. When we talk about gentrification effect, we have to consider transformation of historic center to cater to tourism, or moreover, the population of residential area in favor of tourist accommodations. Or another example is loss of cultural identity and replacement of traditional service with tourist-oriented business. When we talk about touristification, we have to consider the conversation of a urban and a rural area to meet visitors' needs. Replacement of traditional activities with exclusively tourist service. It's not good. Or moreover, weakening of local community and reduced quality of life for residents. And only mass tourism and its consequence is overcrowding of a popular destination, leading to environmental damage. Increased cost of living for locals, for example, Venice, or another capital in Italy, for example, Barcelona, or another, but it's the same in Trentino and in Valsugana. Loss of, and when we talk about this argument, we have to consider loss of authenticity in the tourist experience due to standardized offering. And loss of identity is a problem. So the risk of tourism is a monoculture. When we talk about my colleagues that work in this sector, this is a big problem. For example, Val di Fassa, for example, Garda. The monoculture is a problem dynamic, and it's due to economic dependence. Destinations solely reliant on tourism are vulnerable to economic crisis, in particular way in the monoculture, and the shift in the travel trend. Or, for example, when we talk about the climate change in the monoculture, the climate change is a big problem. For example, ski resorts below 1,800 meters are at risk of shorter winter season due to climate change. And the claim in this slide is effective DMO foster innovation and alternative sectors. Solution and sustainability. 2 words: coordination and co-creation. Creation of inclusive and collaborative process. And I think that this destination manager must govern together with stakeholder. In fact, a successful destination engage institution, business, and communities in a common vision. So the claim is a DMO must build trust, not just plans. In other, governance and stakeholder engagement. Anna, is very important, and so is a center of our work with making governance participatory. Balance between strategic leadership and stakeholder engagement is a big question, but is a very important successful or vision of our vision. If we consider to work in a tourist plan, or for example, development of a flexible and participatory governance models, or establishment of ongoing dialogue with operators to enable shared decision making. Quindi, in particular way, co-design model for shared decisions and continue dialogue with local people or community. So, and now the stewardship and supporting local operators. The stewardship is important when we talk public and private entities, or the new dimension of DMO is to conduce the private entrepreneurs or tourist entrepreneurs to go on tourist plan in dialogue with the DMO and the vision of DMO. Stewardship is not just about promoting the destination, but is a caring for the territory. Support local operators through training, useful tools, for example, toolkit, and innovation process. When we talk about this, when we talk about the stewardship and the super local and the supporting local operators, we have to consider a concrete example. For example, GSDC certification. That this certification is a level to dialogue to public and the private entities, and so it is very important. The stewardship is a best practice for all destination manager and a new level of the DMO. So, for example, in the practical case, I show with you the new project in Valsugana with the Valsugana operator camping. The name is EcoPack. What is the EcoPack? When we listen, when we the problem about these topics, in particular way, the problem is poor waste separation in campsites. The poor waste separation in campsites, rising cost, and it is a negative of inefficiency production. So we have to consider a solution. With the solution is coordination between tourism entities and local operators, and implementation of standardized colored bags and use of EA for immersive and multilingual communication. The project will launch at the beginning of the season, aiming to improve waste management, sustainability in tourism. So the claim is DMO can turn small innovation into scalable solution. Is very important. So in conclusion, the name of this slide is key takeaways. What makes a DMO truly effective? Sustainable tourism requires participatory governance, innovative solution, and active community involvement. Balanced resource management can provide lasting benefits for all stakeholders, and concrete examples show that a new approach can lead to tangible and scalable results. So in particular way, long-term vision, so in synthesis, long-term vision over short-term results, participatory governance, commitment to sustainability, innovation rooted in local identity, concrete, measurable action. So, and the quotes, my favorite quotes in this argument is, sustainability in tourism is not a solo act, it's a shared mission. A DMO is the bridge that connects people, place, and purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michele, for your great and inspiring presentation and really important messages to all of aspiring destination professionals. And that's one key aims of WeNaTour, to really help the future professionals that will engage in sustainable management of destinations. And it's really important to have a role model of those professionals that have been putting these best practices that we speak of into really tangible action. So it's really great to see and have this opportunity to learn directly from you. So thank you so much again for taking the time to join us and share your lessons. We also, I will put this in the chat, as mentioned at the start of the session, WeNaTour has shared case studies that you can take a look and read and learn more about, including Valsugana, but also other destinations as well. You can find a link to download, and this, I hope you will add to your learning toolkit as you move forward with our series, but your sustainable tourism learning in general to support your journey. So at this point, to wrap up our session for today, I have a few reminders and information to share. And as mentioned at the start, if anybody has any specific questions related to the course, we're happy to stay on. So what's next in terms of our webinar, but also in terms of the WeNaTour project, as mentioned at the start as well, this is one aspect of the learning offers that WeNaTour provides. We have an online course that is open and free and available to anyone who is interested in learning more and diving deeper into a lot of these topics. So one of the course offers that we have is specifically focused on destination management. So including the governance and stakeholder engagement examples that we heard about today, we will have more information, more examples included in the course, as well as other opportunities for you to explore as part of the overall training program offers of the WeNaTour program. Project, which all of this you can also see on our website. As already mentioned many times, we are here, number 1 of a 4-part series. So we're really happy that you've chosen to spend a little bit of time with us to join us today. We will be exploring different aspects, different pillars of sustainable tourism destinations in the upcoming editions. We hope you will be able to join many of those as well. And as with the session that we had today, all of these will be recorded and recording will be shared with registered participants. So please sign up. And one last point is, please do reach out to us, connect with us. If you would like to join, you can find a link on the website. You can connect with us on LinkedIn to follow our updates. And this has been a great pleasure to host our first webinar with lots and lots of great insights and lessons. And I hope you've taken a lot out of this. And I hope that you will take the lessons, apply to your work and your learning journey in sustainable tourism. So thank you again for all of our speakers who have provided guidance and insights today. Thank you to all the participants who have spent a lot of time with us to learn about sustainable tourism destinations, which is really inspiring. And at this point, we will wrap up the official portion of the program so we can stop the recording. And I would say one more time from all of us on behalf of WeNaTour, thank you for joining. Thank you for being part of our session. We will stay on for a little bit. For anyone who may have any questions for us regarding the course, regarding our project, if you want to join, have any questions related to that, please feel free to stay. But otherwise, thank you again. And I hope that you all have a great rest of the day and see you hopefully at one of the next upcoming sessions. Thank you.